I'm here today to talk about how I went from thread dumps to doing growth plans, and what are the ups and downs of my management life. What are the key takeaways that I have learned after transitioning from being a tech person to becoming a people manager so far. Um, to get started with, my name is Marcelo. Marcelo Wolczek Horlle. I have Polish and German surnames. They are quite difficult to talk, but I'm pretty sure you understand. Before we go ahead with the presentation itself, I just really wanted to give like a quick background about who I am, and share like a little bit of specifics about myself. So work-wise, I did start working around 10 years ago as a service desk agent at my city's town hall. I live in a city called Porto Alegre, the southernmost capital in Brazil. By that time, I used to work like with printers, desktop issues, hardware issues, and all sort of crazy stuff being raised by the end users in the office. After a year and a half working there, I moved to Dell, which is a hardware manufacturer and seller. There, I worked for several roles during my 5 years tenure. I did participate in several teams, learned a lot of different things, till the time that I realized that it was time to move ahead to a new company in order to get challenged once again. And that's when I joined eCore, the company that I'm working with nowadays. And I have been here for almost 5 years, currently working as a support manager, but I did work on other support and customer facing roles before taking over the team. We're going to be talking about that in a few. My academic background, it's actually quite funny. I did start studying system analysis and development. After some time, I realized that I wanted to have a bachelor degree, so I moved to studying computer science. And funny things kept happening, right? At some point, I wasn't feeling connected anymore with computer science, so I moved once again to information systems, where I should be ending the course in an year. I'm currently going through my end of course work to be able to call myself someone who has a bachelor degree in that area. Um, it's funny that even though I come from technology, I really want to specialize in psychology or any sort of human-related area at some point. You will going to understand a little bit more about that in a few. On my personal side, I'm really very dog oriented. I do have 3 dogs. Really love to spend time with them. They are really the source of my happiness on a daily basis. On my free time, I like to play sports. So I'm an amateur tennis, paddle, and soccer player. I'm really bad at all of them, but I do try. And I love to spend time with my girlfriend, my friends, and my dogs when I'm not at work. And one of the things that I love the most is cooking and eating at different places. I think you can learn a lot about cultures and different perspectives by doing that. Just to wrap up on about me topic, I really like to talk and engage in conversations about career. I enjoy having conversations about troubleshooting crazy issues. Really still like that. Really like to have deep and meaningful conversations about life and life aspects in general. So if you're interested in any of these areas as well, just hit me up at some point in time, and we can definitely connect about those. But cool, enough about me, right? Let's talk about what matters the most. And today I wanted to start with the why. For those of you who haven't heard of him, Simon Sinek, my favorite writer of all time. He's well known for like great TED Talks and books, responsible for many great things. Please Google his name later on. But I do like to think of him as the person who built the golden circle theory, which we can see in this image on the slide. What is the golden circle theory, you might be thinking? The golden circle theory talks about finding your why, finding your purpose. It comes from the theory that everyone in this world knows what they do. Some of them know how they do it, but just a few of them know why they do it. It's related to purpose. It's related to having a professional meaning, a meaning of life. And by why, by purpose, Simon really means like, why do you get out of bed in the morning, right? Why do you do what you do? Why should people care about, everything you are doing on a daily basis? I know that that's very interesting, very cool, but let's talk about my why, right? Because that's really related to what drove me to the leadership position. I mean, why did I decide to manage people instead of doing tech, which I was kind of good at, I must say? What's my guiding purpose, and how did I find that? And how did that drove me to start doing what I did today? To answer that, we need to flashback a little bit and just understand where it all started. So it really starts at one of my first jobs. I was an intern at a huge hardware company by that time. I was fresh out of college, didn't really have much work experience at that point. And I joined the company with a lot of expectations. I was like, that's really cool. I'm working at a huge company now. I'm sure I'm going to be learning a lot. I'm sure I'm going to be paired up with a buddy who is going to teach me a lot of great things. And I'm sure that, in a matter of no time, I'll be up and running and delivering up to the expectations. As you know, expectations doesn't really translate into what the reality looks like. And fortunately, it was my case. Why fortunately, you must be thinking. I'll get there in a sec. But turns out my buddy didn't know much. They didn't really have had trainings when they joined the company. And they learned how to do like a few things that was just enough to keep their internship going on. And they were happy with that. Like, hey, I'm doing what I can. That's keeping me my job. I'm fine with that. And you know what's funny? I'm really curious. So I start asking like a lot of questions to the buddy, and I realized the buddy actually knew less than I did. So all of my expectation of learning new things, well, that didn't turn into reality, right? But as I said, fortunately, that happened because I like to think that you must try to find opportunities during the difficult times, because you can actually take a lot of good things out of it. So when I realized my buddy didn't know things and I didn't know either, I kind of forced myself to go after chasing more senior engineers, breaking my boundaries. I was very shy at that time, and asking them for help, asking like, hey, I'm a new guy. Can you teach me things? Like, you're a senior, you have been here for a while. I'm sure I can learn a lot from you. And the most nice thing is that those folks helped me out. They taught me a lot of things. And I realized that, hey, knowledge sharing is awesome, right? These guys are sharing good stuff with me. Let me go ahead and share back with my buddy and with everyone else who might be interested, right, in knowing more things. So I did it. I started like teaching and enabling others on my team, and kind of acting like as a point of contact between senior engineers and the junior engineers on the team by that time. That's exactly the moment where I fell in love with giving back. That nice thing of helping others after being helped out really triggered something inside me. I fell in love with doing that for other people. And the nice thing is that you realize that once you start helping people out, not because you're expecting something in exchange, but rather because you like doing that, you're gonna realize that people are going to feel like giving back to you as well. They're gonna give like good feedback to your peers and managers. They're gonna smile at you, thank you for everything you did. They're gonna start saying nice things, which is very cool, which is very nice. And getting to figure out that feeling at that time really is going to drive us back to my why, to my purpose that Simon was talking about in the first slide. So what is my purpose, right? I like to phrase it as to help people succeed, inspiring them to help others succeed, so together we can shape a better world. As I mentioned it before, right? When people helped me out, inspired to help others out as well. And I thought like, hey, if I can help someone else, maybe I can also inspire that person to help another person out. And we can probably be like a chain of good. I mean, why not trying, right? And this kind of drives us to how did I get there? So at that point in time, I was a junior engineer. I kind of had figured out that I liked helping people and that I wanted to do that throughout my career. And the nice thing is that it opened a lot of opportunities. I started to be like invited for one-on-one conversations about career. And surprisingly enough, first time someone invited me for a one-on-one career, I was like, hey, you sure you invited the right person to this room? Are you really willing to talk to me? But yes, they were willing to talk to me, which was very nice. And yeah, like a lot of opportunities started to show up, one-on-ones, helping people, reviewing issues, unblocking them when they needed. And at some point, I was kind of doing that a good part of my time already, when in the other part, I was doing tech, right? I never really quit doing tech. I tried to keep up with learning the tech specifics. But how did I transition, right? How did I get there? At some point in time along the line, I just started to feel like there was something missing. I realized I wasn't being challenged anymore. Like I was having a great time doing tech. It was fun. Really loved at analyzing those thread dumps and reviewing logs and solving technical issues for the customers. But the truth is, I had entered that famous comfort zone. Again, right, being technical was fun. I could be doing that for more years to come. But fun fact about me, I hate comfort zones. I prefer to be outside of them because I think that's where you learn a lot of things. At that point in time, that's the call to action that I was expecting. I was like, damn, it's time to embrace my why, right? I want to help people succeed. I'm doing that part-time, but I want to do that all my time, pretty much my entire day. I want to be paid for doing that. Why not, right? So I went to my manager and said, hey, I want to become a manager. What should I do? And he was nice enough at that time to say, well, that's cool. Let me help you out. We're going to get you exposed to a lot of management tasks. And let's see if you're going to like it and if you're going to do well at it as well. Right? So I started doing like the management tasks. Started getting experience at doing the management tasks and decided that I really wanted to go ahead and leave tech behind and move to a more technical position. And the irony lives in the details, right? When I had recently moved to a new team and was learning new tech stuff, 4 months after doing that, my boss at that time called me saying, hey, I'm moving to a different position, right? Someone needs to take the team over. Are you willing to be the manager? And I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, I was expecting to get an opportunity at some time, but it usually happens when you are not expecting. Life is really a troll sometimes. I wasn't really prepared, but I guess no one really ever is. So I embarked on the challenge, and I went ahead to really start managing people. Context set, what I want to share is really how that looks like and how that's been working out for me. What are the challenges that I faced so far? What are the things that I like it? The things that I have not been enjoying much, and hopefully help you out to understand how does it look like as soon as you end a technical career and you move to a people career. So moving ahead, I know it may sound a little bit cliche, but I don't think I can describe being a manager better than calling it a roller coaster. That's how it looks like. Just a minute, real quick. I think I lost just a second. All right, let me go back in track. So as I was saying, I don't think there is a better way to describe being a manager than calling it a roller coaster. That's how it really looks like. Why do I call it a roller coaster? Because being a manager is full of ups and downs. It's really full of vertical loops, and it's definitely an adventure. But the important detail here is that You can't fasten a seatbelt, and you have to do whatever you can to stay alive while you are having fun. That's the best ever definition I have ever heard so far about being a manager. It really looks like that sometimes. Um, but yeah, before I go ahead, like with my experience, I just want to call out that transitioning to a new position, like coming from tech and going to management, is not easy. I really thought of giving up a few times, not a few times, a ton of times actually. And I learned that's normal because when you're doing something that you're really good at and you leave comfort zone and you need to start doing something that you don't know much about and that you may not be as good as you think, that's challenging, that's difficult. It kicks imposter syndrome a lot. And you really feel like giving up. You really question yourself a ton of times if you should not go back to doing that. But I did not, right? At some point in time, I actually learned how to start loving my job. Um, and I think, the best thing ever is really talking about these ups and downs now that I'm more comfortable about, being a management position. Uh, so starting with, right, what is the first takeaway that I wanted to call out? Transitioning from individual contributor to leadership is not really an easy task. It's something that takes time. As they say, old habits, they die hard. One day we're there troubleshooting issues, fixing technical stuff, and in the other day you have a lot of reports to build and career plans to document. And the thing is, it doesn't happen overnight. You get to know you became a manager, you start wearing multiple hats, and for some time, you're going to be wearing those two hats and delivering two jobs at the same time till you fully transition from tech to management. It takes time for people to recognize you as a leader because think about it, right? They were super used with knowing you as a tech person, and now they need to know the new you, who is a manager. So till you get comfortable with wearing one hat only instead of wearing two hats at the same time, takes time. You're gonna suffer a lot during the process, but that's the beauty of it, right? And another thing to call out is that when you become manager, people expect you that overnight you start having all of the answers, and that's not true at all. I remember coming to work on my first day as a manager and thinking like, hey, I have a lot of unanswered questions. What's going to happen when people ask me questions? I don't even know how I'm going to respond to them because I actually have more questions than them. When is the magic happening? When I'm getting like a full download on my brain of all of the answers? Well, spoiler alert, that doesn't happen, right? You need to figure it out over time, and it really takes time to transition from one role to another. Um, Aside from like transitioning to one role from another, one thing that you need to do while doing that is building boundaries. Um, why building boundaries, right? When you keep wearing multiple hats for a while, at some point you're gonna realize that playing double agent while your team is small is difficult but doable. However, when your team starts to grow and scale, your ability to wear two different hats or more will not scale along. So building boundaries is important, right? You have to master that ability of being empathetic to others that are reaching out to you for assistance while being empathetic to yourself as well. It's really about understanding that solving problems is not wearing multiple hats, but rather about building the ideal conditions for everyone to operate at their natural best. And you know what's funny when you set boundaries, um, you actually help people out, right? I was giving that advice at some point in my career. I was having like a very difficult conversation with my manager about me burning out because I wasn't being able to keep up with my entire workload. And he said, hey, you know what? Like, you need to learn how to trust people and delegate actions you used to do before to your people. Um, your job here is to coach them so they learn how to do it right. And then you have to facilitate things when they encounter roadblocks. Again, coach and facilitate. Don't do it on their behalf. Otherwise, you will not be helping people to grow. And during that conversation, I actually had one of the best insights that I have had up to that point in my career. Helping people grow is sometimes setting boundaries and keeping them held accountable for what they need to do. And speaking of difficult conversations, you can really run away from those difficult talks. The truth about me is I didn't know how to be vulnerable. Just to give you context, when growing up as a kid, I was taught that being vulnerable was actually a bad thing, was a sign of weakness. And I believe that what I've been told before was true. Till I did a lot of therapy, got to know myself better, and also got to know another writer that I love called Brené Brown, who is very famous for writing speeches and books about vulnerability and how that's a positive thing, not a bad thing. Um, I would like to recommend you all to read Simon Sinek books and read Brené Brown's books as well. Those are very good and helped me a lot. But getting back to the main line of the speech, vulnerability matters, right? You can be in a leadership position if you are not willing to be vulnerable, because the same difficult conversation I was having with my boss, I had to learn how to have those difficult conversations with the people reporting to me. And sometimes having those difficult conversations is the only way to help people out. Yeah, like think about the fact, Marcelo, before I used to run away from difficult conversations. I didn't like them. No one really does. They are difficult. That's why they are called uncomfortable conversations. But as a manager, you can run away from them anymore. The good news is that you will start to understand that the sentiment of being uncomfortable doesn't last forever, right? And that when you build relationships based on vulnerability, when you are willing to show people that you can also make mistakes, you are also there to learn, and that you are talking to them during a difficult time because of a good reason, they start to give it back. And with time, you do not get comfortable with the conversations. That's impossible, but you learn how to drive them, and you know why you have to drive them in the first place. The good thing that I learned about difficult conversations that I used to from before is that they only going to hurt you once. You're gonna have the difficult conversation. It's going to be difficult, but it's going to hurt once. If you don't solve the problem, it's going to keep hurting multiple times until the problem is solved, right? So the best advice I can give is don't run away from them. Don't do that. They are important to have. And trying to link that, right? When you have those difficult conversations, you're gonna realize that as a leader, you're gonna feel lonely sometimes. Difficult talks can lead you to feel lonely, right? And giving difficult feedback is an example. This is by far not my favorite thing of being a manager, right? But I do have to give difficult feedback to the people in my report line, because otherwise I would be being a bad manager. I wouldn't be helping them out, right? And what they don't tell you about being a manager is that there's things only you know. No one really knows that, but there are things that only the managers know. And what sucks the most is that we need to keep that for ourselves, right? Let's think about it, right? Sometimes you're gonna be the bad cop, sometimes you're gonna be the good cop, and being the bad cop puts you in a very lonely spot. Think about it, right? At some point in time, I'm sure everyone here has received difficult feedback from their bosses, and I'm sure you all called like a friend or a colleague and said, "Hey, you know what? My boss is a dick. He just gave me bad feedback. Can you believe that guy?" Until eventually we realized that the boss was coming from somewhere. They had like a good intention behind the feedback. However, as a leader, you can't really be like that, because again, there are things only we know. So if you have someone that you need to let go because they have performance issues, and you know the performance issues are caused because of something very particular to that person that the person is not willing to change, and you have to let them go, but they are really liked by everyone in the company, I'm sure people in the company are going to be like, wow, that boss is a dick. He fired that person. But the truth is, The boss will never be able to say like, yes, I fired the person because there is a reason. You can't disclose the reason. You have to take the onus of knowing why you took an action, staying with that knowledge for yourself, and keeping it up when people judge you and get upset at you. Because otherwise you could be disclosing something confidential about someone and you don't want to do that. That's unfair. So really being a leader, one of the things that I learned is that I thought being technical and dealing with customers required a lot of mental resilience, and it does. But when you are a leader, you have to master the ability of having mental resilience, because you're gonna be questioned, challenged, and judged at the same time. Because again, there are things that only you know. So it's definitely like a lonely position, right? And this leads us to my last lesson, right? My main and last takeaway from today's talk. At the end of the day, it's really about people. If you quit tech and you decided that you wanted to do people manager, it's because you love people, right? As they say, it takes a village. Even though you can't disclose details from difficult situations, you should still have a network of people you can talk to in lesser detail. It's helpful. At the same time, people need you, you need people as well. So being a manager is really all about people. You may be thinking like, hey, this guy came here today and just listed a lot of bad things and difficult things that he faced on his career. But you know what? They have been difficult, but they taught me a lot. I really became, I think at least I really became a better professional and a better human being ever since I did the transition. And I really think that I learned a lot of things that I wouldn't be able to learn by staying on my tech side. And what's important is you must remember your guiding principle all the time. You must remember why you embarked on that journey for the first place. Because at the first sign of you being questioned, if you remember your why, your purpose, you're going to be like, well, I knew this was coming, but I'll stick to my why. I know that's my greater mission, my greater purpose. I'll do it, right? And remembering about my why, I'm here to help people succeed. I'm doing my best to keep up with my why. And if you are like me and all that matters for you is people, I'm sure you're going to do great transitioning from tech to people, because at the end of the day, it's really about the people. It's not necessarily about anything else. It's really about caring about those on your report line. It's helping them out, and is leading them to be successful. So all of that being said, indeed, threads were super fun. But I learned that career plans can be super fun too. I still feel like some days that I was really better at doing technical stuff than I am with the management stuff, but I'm slowly figuring it out that I can also do the non-technical work. And for those of you asking, right, somehow I form my own leadership style. I keep up with tech, even though my fellow manager colleagues don't like that, to hear that sometimes. I still like pick a few tickets, troubleshoot stuff, like to keep up with the technical, because this helps me on the conversation with people on my team, help me to understand the challenges they go through on a daily basis, and help me to be able to be more empathetic to them when they need my assistance. So closure note, I guess my main takeaway here is that there's really no wrong or right answer. There are just answers. What you need to do as a manager is listen to everybody who seems to have an answer to your question, analyze data along with the answer, make the best out of that mix, and then try to go ahead and do what you think it is right, based on all of the data and answers that you gathered before. Learn with other experiences, ask questions, make mistakes, admit you did something wrong, and then try again. Keep trying, but make sure you do try. That's the most important thing, after all. To close this out, if your people are happy, or if your people are not happy, but you care enough to be working your ass off to make them happy again, then don't have any questions to yourself. Just move to a management career. You are definitely in the right path. Thank you very much. that was it from my end.